Dr. Seshadri Chari is an alumnus of Mumbai Vidyapit, that is Bombay University, from where he did his BCom, LLB and MA in History. He did his PhD from Manipal University and his topic was Regional Dynamics of Indo-Pacific Region and Implications of China Influence in India's Extended Neighborhood. He is presently the governor's nominee in the Managing Council of Mumbai University. He is also a Professor Emeritus at Savitribai Phule Pune University and Ministry of Defence, that is MOD Chair Professor in the Department of Defence and Strategic Studies there. He is presently the Chairman, China Study Center at MAHE, that is Manipal Academy of Higher Education.
During emergency, there was a lot of surveillance and a lot of arrest, everything was there. And one reason why many of the people who were associated with the RSS or Janasangh at that time could not be arrested was there was no mobile. There was absolutely no contacts could be made. And everything could be kept a secret. So not having a mobile and not having this kind of smart mobiles was one of the reasons why we were saved. So for those who are born after emergency, especially after the 80s and 90s, they should know there is that. So if today, if emergency is declared in this modern era, I'm sure 100% of those who are against emergency would be arrested within 1 hour. That is the kind of situation that we have today. There is no secrecy, nothing. Everything is known about everybody. All whereabouts are known. But that is also another part of it. In those days, during emergency, communication was a very, very big problem. So, but before that, let me go briefly into the background of emergency. You know, every country has a particular set of rules, regulations, and some protective and security apparatus. So, emergency is one such apparatus that the Constitution has provided. There are two kinds of emergencies. One is external emergency and one is internal emergency. External emergency is declared when the country faces, let us say, a threat or an aggression by a foreign country. Because, say, let us, in 1962, there was an attack by China. So that time the government declared an external emergency. And during external emergency, a lot of things happen. Like if the army goes on leave, if somebody from the army goes on leave, invoking the emergency provisions, his leave can be cancelled and he can be asked to join the duty immediately. Similarly, if a government officer, say somebody working in the defense ministry goes on leave, citing emergency, he can be called on duty. These are all some of the provisions that are made in the Constitution so that the country's apparatus, the system or governance should not suffer, especially during such situations. So in 1971, if you all remember, there was a war with Pakistan and Bangladesh was created. So for all the atrocities that the Pakistani army committed on people in Bangladesh, there were a lot of refugees who had come from Bangladesh to India, and we faced a very severe situation on the borders. We had millions of refugees from Bangladesh in our country and almost 9 million refugees. So not a small number. And we managed all of them. We managed to send back some of them, but most of them stayed back. That's a different story. We won't go into that. But more importantly, what happened was ultimately there was a threat from both the sides, the Western Front and the Eastern Front. But somehow we managed, and then finally Bangladesh was created. So during that Bangladesh war, the 1971 war, external emergency was declared. And very surprisingly, in 1971, before the war, almost at the beginning of the year, Mrs. Indira Gandhi called for elections and she won the election decisively. That was the election when Indira Gandhi gave a slogan called Garibi Hatao. For the first time that slogan was used in election. And she campaigned saying that मैं कहती हूँ गरीबी हटाओ, लोग कहते हैं इंदिरा हटाओ, अब आप तय करिए. So people voted for her overwhelmingly. So all the opposition was decimated. There was no opposition as such at that time. The communists were very weak. CPM, CPA, CPM both. Socialist Party was divided and Bharatiya Janasangh was the only party that could challenge her. So anyway, Bharatiya Janata Party was defeated and she won. But her problem did not stop there. Her opposition came more from within her party, because in 1969, the Congress party witnessed one of the major splits. The 1969 split was engineered by people who were far senior to Mrs. Indira Gandhi by age and experience. So people like Morarji Desai, Y.B. Chavan, and Jagjivan Ram, and so many other people were there at that time. They all voted her out of the office, and they virtually captured the Congress. So then she campaigned against them and became the Prime Minister. But the Congress party was still undecided. So these old people in the Congress, they called it Congress O, that is organization. And Mrs. Indira Gandhi called her Congress as Congress R, that is ruling Congress. So when it was Congress R, during emergency, one more thing happened. During emergency, she dismissed all these people, put all of them in the jail, and Congress R became ruling Congress. That was the funniest part of the Congress party. Anyway, so her threat perception for India came more from the party than from outsiders. So this continued. And then 1974, there was a railway strike called by George Fernandez, and all trade unions, including the leftist trade union, Congress, Bharatiya Janata Sangh's trade union was Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh at that time, they all joined hands. And it was a very successful railway strike. And then Jayaprakash Narayan had called for what we call the total revolution. So all these things conspired, and ultimately what happened was that the ruling party faced a major problem. Major problem they faced. And this problem resulted in... so all these things conspired, and these are the factors that forced Mrs. Gandhi to declare emergency. So if you strictly see, the war with Pakistan was over in 1971. Bangladesh was created in 1971. So what was the need for emergency? Actually, there was no need for emergency. There was no war-like situation in the country. And election she had already won. So ultimately, what is important is that the only reason for emergency is that Mrs. Indira Gandhi was facing a serious internal problem. That was the reason why emergency was imposed actually. So this is what is my analysis of the problem. But one more thing happened in between. Besides Mrs. Gandhi's problems, the opposition also was equally united against her. So on 25th June 1975, he imposed emergency, and all opposition leaders were put in jail. So all these people were put in jail at that time. Now, to add to the trouble, there was practically no opposition party which was organized at that time. The only organization which could probably create an all India protest or all India opposition was the RSS. So she calculated that somehow or the other, if RSS is allowed to function, they will ultimately campaign against her, and this will lead to a major conflict in the country. So this was one of the reasons why she decided to ban RSS. Many RSS leaders, although they were not part of the political process, they were also put in jail. So this is, in fact, a short background for emergency.
Sir, Abhimanyu here, sir. Sir, I have two questions. One is that is the present system immune enough or modified enough not to have one more emergency? Have we done something, some amendments to Constitution or something? That is one question, sir. Second question is that is the emergency? I mean, any crisis brings in an opportunity. So, or possibility. So can we tell that the present day political system is a offshoot of emergency's positive part, that you people all were there in jail to organize yourself and talk about this, and later Janata Party was formed, or the present day BJP was formed? Probably emergency was one of the reasons.
Yeah, that's a good question actually. Actually, it's not one question, it's three questions put together. Let me see how best I can answer this. See, one thing, soon after emergency in 1977, the Janata Party came to power. So when Janata Party came to power, they immediately cancelled all the rules and regulations that Mrs. Gandhi had imposed. And that way, if you see, the Defense of India rule was changed, Maintenance of Internal Security Act was changed, and then imposition of emergency was made a little more difficult, in the sense it has to go through a number of systems. Unlike the cabinet passing it, actually when the emergency was declared, it was declared by the cabinet. Prime Minister announced it, and the President was told about it the next day, and then the President was asked to sign the emergency declaration. Actually, it is the other way around. It's recommended by the cabinet, and it goes to the President, and it is the President who declares emergency. So the declaration of emergency itself was unconstitutional. So these provisions were all tightened. So after emergency, all these things happened. So today, if any government wants to really impose emergency, it has been made difficult, but not impossible, because you should never make a law in such a manner that it binds your own hands. Tomorrow, if, God forbid, if there is a major war between India and some other country, or if there is an external threat to our country and we have to declare emergency. For example, we witnessed what we call the COVID period. During COVID, it was actually a medical emergency all over the country. So such similar situations can arise. So these provisions are kept in the constitution, but made very difficult to implement by one individual. So it is not possible that any one individual can do all these things. One cannot do it. So that is one good thing that has happened because of emergency. Another thing that happened was a metamorphosis in Indian politics. Why I am saying metamorphosis is, before 1975, the thing was that Indira Gandhi cannot be defeated at all. That indispensability of Indira Gandhi and indefeatability of Indira Gandhi was a taken for granted thing. But in 1977, when she declared elections, there was a major change, and for the first time people realized that Mrs. Indira Gandhi and the Congress party can also be defeated. So that laid the foundation of a strong opposition, which was confident that we can also win elections and come to rule. So this was the second thing that happened. Because of the internal conflicts of Janata Party, in 1980, Bharatiya Janata Party was born. Bharatiya Janata Sangh merged into Janata Party. It no longer existed in 1977. But then again, 1980, it was revived in a different Bharatiya Janata Party. The present is Bharatiya Janata Party. And all the leaders of Jan Sangh who had part of Janata Party quit and joined. In this process, there were a number of other people from other parties, from Congress party, who were part of Janata Party. They also quit Janata Party and joined BJP. So in a way, you can say BJP gained. Third thing that happened was, during emergency, RSS was banned. RSS created a big counter force for Mrs. Indira Gandhi in the country. There were satyagrahas that happened. All the anti-emergency Save Democracy movement was led by the RSS in the name of Loka Sangharsha Samiti. So we were all part of Loka Sangharsha Samiti at that time. Our job was to organize satyagraha and protest against the government. So even I organized satyagraha, and I offered satyagraha. I was arrested also, and I was kept in Arthur Road jail for 6 months. So it was police arrested all of us. They ill-treated us. They bet us all. I mean, we were all college students, so nothing happened much. So we took it as part of the protest and all that. But once inside the jail, there were other people also. More than lakhs of people were in all over the jails in the country. So being in jail during RSS, during emergency was much better than being outside, because at least outside we had the fear of police, we had the fear of being arrested under Maintenance and Internal Security Act, that is called MISA. We were also under the fear of being arrested under DIR, that is Defense of India rules. Whereas in jail, we were actually free in jail than outside. And that was the whole thing. But anyway, once we came out, Indira Gandhi had decided to announce elections, and then the story was different. So RSS work grew phenomenally after the emergency. People realized that all that was told about RSS, that it's a secret organization, it is this, it is that, communal, everything withered away. And RSS gained a lot of support among the people of the country after emergency. So these are all the important factors that I think happened for the country's policy, country's politics, and also the constitution was strengthened much better.
Sir, can I put one more question, sir? Sorry, I am extending your this thing. See, my thing is that she could have continued as an autocrat endlessly. What made her to withdraw the emergency?
Correct. Actually, she would have probably done that also, because initially she thought that nobody will protest, nothing will happen, everything will pass off peacefully. But then there were a lot of protests, all this happened, so she realized. And then there was a huge protest from within the Congress also. So there were three things that happened. One, mass protest organized by the RSS. Mass protest. So this mass protest created a huge problem for her. This law and order situation was the state's control. So all state chief ministers wrote that there is tremendous resentment among the people, and people are not liking it. Initially, during emergency, the 20-point program was announced. So people thought that, it is all very good, amuk tamuk and all that. But slowly people realized that unnecessarily the police, the country is becoming a police raj. Police is becoming powerful and people are suffering. So if a policeman wants to trouble you, all that he has to say is, so-and-so is an RSS man, and put him in jail. Finished. So this excesses happened. Another thing that happened was in Delhi, Indira Gandhi's son Sanjay Gandhi, he started a program of Nasbandi, that was called. So that was forced sterilization of people, and lakhs of people were forcefully brought to medical centers, and sterilized. This created a huge problem. Very huge social problem. So all the police people on the ground, IB people, they kept on sending messages to Mrs. Indira Gandhi, PMO, that emergency excesses are going above the head of people and there can be a major revolt in this country. Added to that, the assassination of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman became a huge problem for Mrs. Gandhi psychologically. She said, if a person like Mujibur Rahman can be assassinated in Bangladesh, what will happen if somebody goes against? So that was another fear that was lurking in the mind of Mrs. Indira Gandhi personally. Fourth was, there were many people in the opposition, RSS, and even within the Congress who said that, look, 20-point program is, nobody has a problem with 20-point program. It is a very good program. Even Balasaheb Devraj, the Sarasanga Chalak of RSS at the time, wrote a letter to Mrs. Indira Gandhi that we are not against 20-point program. But to implement 20-point program, you don't require emergency. Lift it. Release the RSS people. So then she thought, this could be a good idea. I will say that emergency will be lifted. We will hold elections and everybody is in the jail and nobody is going to come out. And even if they are released, it will take months for them to go back to the people, campaign for the election, and I will spend billions and billions of crores of rupees and win the election with the power of the government. That was her idea. But she did not realize that there was an undercurrent against Indira Gandhi, there was an undercurrent against emergency, there was an undercurrent against stifling of democracy, there was an undercurrent against stifling of freedom of movement, freedom of speech, freedom of writing. All these things were tremendously, there was an undercurrent against her. So she was defeated. But surprisingly, I will tell you, even in spite of all these excesses of emergency and undercurrent against Mrs. Indira Gandhi, she got sufficient number of seats which the Congress party has never got after this. So that was the situation where people realized, and especially the RSS Sarasanga Chalak at that time, Balasaheb Devaraj said that this is the time for us to forgive and forget. We should forgive Mrs. Indira Gandhi for whatever she has done and also forget her. But unfortunately, the Janata Party refused to do it. They wanted to arrest her. They continued with the vendetta politics. And that ended up so badly that she was resurrected and she became the Prime Minister once again. I think this is the reason why.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Fantastic information. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Chari ji. I think you have really visited the emergency situation that was 50 years back beautifully, giving the backdrop and what are the repercussions on the common man. But like everything which was, I think 99.999% of emergency was a assault on democracy, human rights, all the things that you shared. But I was a teenager then, in 1975, maybe 13-14 years. So I have only one silver lining of the emergency, which is which I can recollect. The amount of sincerity that crept in the government circuit at that point of time, and the type of discipline that was seen, it was more like Nazi style. But what happened that time was that where people never used to visit offices even in government sector before the emergency, there was strict sort of compliance to rules, regulations, bribery disappeared. I have just one question. I think the whole of emergency is a bad dream for all of us. And we hope that it never occurs at all in our lifetimes, at least, and even the youngsters present here. So we don't hope and never pray that we revisit that space again. But whether that type of culture, why is it that culture has not permeated? It's a very broad question, but how is it that positive thing that happened in that time in the government circuit, particularly? Because my father was in the government, I remember that people never used to go more than 1 hour to office and just while the time. But during the emergency, I remember distinctly everything changed. They were sharp on their desks at the right time. So even today, I think this type of discipline is not there somewhere in the country. So not talking of the emergency, but what is to be done to ensure that type of discipline as a culture on a broader framework, so that we move forward as a country.
Discipline is very important.
Yes, sir.
In all walks of life, discipline is important not only for the government servants, but discipline is important for all of us, you and me also.
Yes,
so one has to be very disciplined as far as life is concerned, as far as society is concerned. You require traffic discipline. Policemen have to be disciplined, drivers have to be disciplined, pedestrians have to be disciplined. You cannot spit anywhere you feel. You cannot cross the road anywhere you want. You should not drive against the traffic flow. You should stop when there is everything. I mean, there is discipline in every walk of life. Now, there are two ways of discipline. One is impose it from the top, or another is inculcate that habit in yourself. Self-imposed discipline. That is another way.
Very right.
I would recommend the second one is much better. Everybody will agree that the second one is better. But as far as emergency discipline is concerned, emergency was not imposed to discipline the government staff. Emergency was not imposed to discipline people on the road. You think people were not spitting on the road at that time? They were spitting. You think people were not throwing garbage on the road? They were throwing garbage. You think people were not driving beyond signals? People were driving. So emergency was only forced on the government employees so that there is something to show that emergency, the good side of emergency. That was the whole thing. But all these things percolated to the government offices only for a few months.
Right.
Because we know about the government office. After that, corruption did not stop in the government.
Very right.
We are facing corruption even today. So Garibi has not gone. In spite of 20-point program, there was no infrastructure development, no manufacturing sector development, no GDP growth. Nothing happened. What happened after emergency? Nothing. On the other hand, if you see, when in 2014, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi became Prime Minister, he imposed certain rules and regulations for the government offices. So initially, even now, pardon my saying this, I am not against government offices, but the initial fear of the government is slowly waning away. This is exactly what happened during the emergency also. So if you say trains were running late, you don't require an emergency for the trains to run on time. Trains have to run on time all the time. So what is more important is that discipline should come from within. It cannot be an external factor. Law is required for discipline. but law alone cannot guarantee discipline. Compliance has to come from within. In spite of law, if compliance is not there from within, any compliance born out of fear or favor will not stick for a long time. So both the factor of fear and the factor of favor will not last long. That was what was proved during emergency.
Very right. Very right.
Thank you.
Sir, good evening, sir. I'm Prithvi from Hyderabad. I work as a design manager. Thank you very much for the enlightening talk. I think the answers you gave for other questions were also wonderful. I think the right and the duty being two sides of the same coin, and there is no absolute right and duty. My question goes on one of the answers you gave, sir, about educating children and making emergency an educative topic in schools or to students. I was curious, beyond awareness about what is emergency, when is it imposed, would you want to inculcate anything else? Because like you also said, there is no control from, is there any control possibility from the people's end on how we cannot let the emergency be imposed? Is it only on the receiving end? Are we simply getting informed, or do you see any possibility of the people influencing emergency not happening?
Yes, people also influence, people's influence is very important actually. Your question is very important actually. It requires a lot of explanation and understanding also. But because of the paucity of time, we should discuss this issue separately at some other stage. But what is more important, as you very rightly pointed out, is educating the people on emergency is one thing, but educating the people on the rights and duties, educating the people on the need for all of us to work for a cause is also equally important. So that has to come, and that has to come in every field. Unfortunately, what happens is all this moral education, civic education is taught only in humanities, only in schools. You become an engineer, in engineering subjects, in your curriculum, are they teaching anything about ethics? Are they teaching anything about, why don't you tell the story of Harishchandra to an engineer? Why don't you tell the story of a good doctor to the medical students? Why can't you teach ethics to medical students? Why can't you teach religious teachings to a medical student? That is the problem. So we cannot distance ourselves. We cannot divorce all these subjects from the basic curriculum. So basically, when you create a citizen, he may be a doctor, he may be an engineer, he may be an accountant, he may be a chartered accountant, he may be a politician, he may be anybody. Certain core principles of an individual of this country should be set. That is what we call Indianization or Bharatiyakaran. So they say in America, America was created. Be American, by American. And if you are an American, what you are. Similarly, if you are an Indian, what you are. So this characteristic of an Indian has to be defined and showcased to the world. That is important. So that is a question that we have to ask ourselves. When you go out of this country and say that you are an Indian, how are you perceived by then that person? Is the perception the same all over the world, or is the perception different? If the perception is same all over the world, and if it is a good perception, I think we have won the game. That is what ultimately has to be decided. It's a very big topic. You have raised a very relevant question at the fag end of the meeting, and I must apologize because I joined late. You did not probably get enough opportunity. Some of these days, I'll request Abhimanyu ji to organize a separate discussion on these subjects also.